You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the third time jump-starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, and drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you, see you, see you.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of He Said, She Said. I am your hostess for the evening, Aggie, and with me is our esteemed producer, a man of the hour, Wrek. How are you doing?
Excuse me, point of order. It's hostess with the mostest.
Oh, well, I keep that over there.
Okay. Well, fine. Never mind then. I sit corrected. I swear. Having a radio wife and a real life wife is kind of the same thing. Just saying.
Well, maybe. How you doing?
I was doing all right till my radio wife corrected me. I'm just playing.
Sorry.
It's all good. I'm apparently, if we're going to keep this analogy going, I'm a radio polygamist.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The big one. That's okay.
And apparently polyamorous because one of my hosts is male.
Oh, boy. Okay. Wow.
So, yeah, maybe I should let that analogy die on the vine. I'm just saying.
This is taking a turn.
Hey, I'm on this show. When does it not take a turn when I'm on the show? I'm just
true.
saying.
This is true. Oh, how was your day?
Interesting. I got to watch Fannie Willis call her dad in.
I that blew my mind. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even gonna. There's no subterfuge. I cannot believe she called her daddy.
I was like, dude, I don't remember the last time that I called my dad to help me deal with what I felt like was a bully, but I'm pretty sure it was around second grade. It's not really the best look for one of the county DAs in Georgia. Just saying.
I didn't even have my dad help me with my science homework, and he's got like 5 degrees. I'm just like, what? I don't understand. Why would you call you're a grown woman. You're supposed to be a lawyer. You're supposed to be a DA. How is it that you need your dad to come, help defend you? That is ridiculous. If you were on the side of right, this would not be an issue. You'd have your case, you put it forward, and end of discussion. But no, that's not that is nowhere near what happened here.
Yeah, and then the other piece of bread to the irony sandwich today was listening to Joe Biden wax lamentedly about the political prisoner that died in Russia today while he's using the DOJ in pretty much every freaking state DA or county DA to try to go after Trump at the same time. I'm like, it's funny. When it happens in America, it's defending democracy. But when Russia does it, it's authoritarian.
Seriously, I have friends all over Europe, and they tell me the same thing. We're a laughingstock.
Oh,
they do not. Those people who live under socialist countries,
yeah,
cannot understand why it is that our administration completely says that this is defending democracy. They just don't get it. Well, and these are socialists.
Well, they say it because it works for their base, because their base and the people that align with them are the only ones that feel like they're actually the true, like the bastions of democracy. The other weird thing for me this week, and I know this isn't usually what we talk about here, but since the vein's been opened, I might as well throw this out here. The other weirdest thing for me was watching Tucker Carlson standing in the middle of a Russian grocery store talking about how much better it is in Russia if you want to buy food. And this would have been $500 in the States, but it was only $105 here. And then they made the mistake of panning over to the cash register and showing it was like 9,954 rubles. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's only okay for you because you had American currency, bro.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I had to spend $10,000 at a grocery store for a week's worth of food. And I'm pretty sure that people in Russia don't get paid in dollars, so I don't think you know what you're talking about.
I still remember when Boris Yeltsin was doing a tour here in the United States, obviously after the wall came down and all that shit had gone down and whatever. And he came to Houston, and they took him to a grocery store. Now, Houston has several different types of grocery stores, where the poor people go to,
yeah,
where the Hispanic population goes to, whatever. And then there's some that are like more gourmet, kind of like the Whole Foods before Whole Foods was a thing here in Texas, that kind of thing. And he was taken to one near the area where Rice University is at, because he was going to be giving a speech at Rice, if I recall correctly. And it was one of the nicer grocery stores, more like Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, that kind of thing. And he walked in, and when he saw the produce, you know what he did?
What did he do? Probably cried.
He did. Literally, he burst into tears. And there was a photographer there. They took the picture. It was in the Houston Chronicle. And he cried to see such bounty. He could not believe it. And he asked, is this at every store? And they looked at him, well, yeah. To have the perfect pyramids of apples and oranges and, the piles of the potatoes and, the variety of apples blew his mind. I still remember that. Now, I want to say that was like 93, 94, around that time range. And so when I saw what Tucker was doing, I was going, dude, maybe you weren't born yet. I don't know.
Well, so the other thing, right, and I meant to do this today on the afternoon show, and I didn't. So since we brought it up, I did look this up because I meant to look it up before. So as of 2024, the average salary in Russia stands at approximately 1,249,900 rubles per year, which equates to roughly 12,710 pounds per year, which for us, because our money sucks, would be like $10,000.
Twice that.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
It would actually be less because the exchange rate for us between Britain is actually lower. So they're at about 1.5 to R1. So if we kind of just, it's like 1.25. So if we just round it down to 10 grand just for the fun of it. So you're talking about in American dollars, people are making around 10 grand, and they're still spending $400 a month on food alone.
Oh yeah, it was. And this is not new, and this is not even new to just, being in Russia either, because when I lived in Germany, my German girlfriend, she had 3 daughters to raise, and her food bill was the same as mine, and I was shopping at the commissary. And she was paying in euro. I was paying in dollars. And so she was actually paying more. And sometimes, for their birthdays, they would ask me, can you get us Oreos? Because they like the American food. And so I would do that. But I was appalled, and this was 20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's just insane. That's like somebody was posting all the pictures of how much cleaner their Subway looks. And I'm like, at what cost?
Well, yeah, they haven't invested. They need that, and to give you an example, Germany is the best example of it. The Nazis didn't go away; they just changed uniforms. That's as far as I'm concerned when it comes to Germany, because you have Germans don't have rights like we do here, like Miranda right and First Amendment, Second Amendment. They don't have anything like that. The cops can literally, if they don't like you, they can beat you up in the street and leave you for dead. And that has happened.
So 70s New York is where we're going. Okay, cool.
But I remember a friend of mine, when he was visiting his grandmother, and he's a friend, he lives in Philadelphia. This is when he was very young. He was telling me a tale. They were walking the streets. He was in, I want to say he was in Munich. And they were walking, down one of the streets or something, and he just decided to spit out his gum. And not 2 minutes later, he gets tapped on the shoulder, and it's a policeman, and he is yelling at him and talking to him in German. And he doesn't understand. He's 12. And the grandmother he remembers his grandmother looking very, very scared, and the grandmother, just interjecting and, talking and everything. And finally she says, he's American, he doesn't know any German, blah, blah, blah. So the police officer switched to English, and he told him what was the issue. You spit your gum out. You need to go pick it up and throw it away properly. And that is the attitude that Germans have. Their streets are very clean. Everything is very clean. It's not like the French. The French do not have that attitude.
Yeah.
They do not.
But
in Russia, they do have that attitude.
The only attitude the French have is asshole.
It was a very strict thing during the communist regime that places had to be very neat. You had to work for the state in every strata, including janitorial services. And so, that's one of the, I guess, vestigial things that they still have over in Russia. Yeah, it's clean because they have bred it into their countrymen that everything must stay clean, just like in Germany.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's because, there was a time where if you didn't pick up your mess, you got thrown in the gulag for days.
No shit.
So it kind of became ingrained. So yeah, it's like I said, everything's a lot cleaner over there, but what was the cost to get it that way? The thing about it is we could have that stuff here, except the same people that are bragging about, how much cheaper food is over there and how much cleaner everything is over there don't realize that it took them ruling with an iron thumb to get things that way. And in reality, it's really not cheaper. We just don't think about it because dropping $100 is nothing to us. You're talking about, that's literally almost if their salary's $10,000, that's almost a fifth of their salary on food a year.
Yeah.
A month. A fifth of their annual salary nearly goes on food a month, and that's just if they bought the same amount of food that Tucker bought for however many people were with him. Assuming they probably have a lot more people, you probably figure their food bill's probably at least double that, which is insane when you think about it based on the exchange rates. I'm just really tired of all this. Everybody's got everything better than us, and then we've got our administration and everybody running the administration trying to race us to the bottom so they can swoop in and fix everything authoritarianly. And now you've got Tucker Carlson going, maybe we should do things the way they do them in Russia. No, maybe we shouldn't, fucker. I actually kind of supported you going in it.
I completely disagree with him on that point.
Yeah, I kind of supported him going and talking to Putin because to me that's what journalists used to do. Go where the story is.
That's what you do. You go where the story is. Exactly.
Go where the story is. Give people the story. Let them figure it out. But then you went into propaganda mode, and yeah, no, I'm over that.
I was extremely disappointed in that because being a student of human nature and of history, and having met people who have escaped, had sought asylum here in the United States while the Iron Curtain was still up, had actually relatives that, managed to escape East Germany into West Germany. Seeing those stories, knowing people who lived through all that, and he says, maybe we should try that here. No. You don't understand how long it took for it to be that clean. You don't understand how broken the human psyche had to be in order to build it back up. You don't want that here. And, and somebody in some tweet or something was saying, they were talking about gun laws again because of the Kansas City shooting. And the guy said, why should you punish law-abiding citizens for the actions of criminals by, taking away all their guns? And the guy says, well, what about everybody's right to being safe, when they go out? No, we don't have that right. You don't have a right to be safe. That is one of the biggest lies that people push when it comes to gun advocacy and gun control, is that human beings have a right to be safe.
No,
No, you do not have a right to be safe. There is no such thing. Fucking nature doesn't have a safe space. Why should I?
Oh, come on. Nature has a safe space. You can go pet an alligator anytime you want.
It drives me up the wall. And the lack of knowledge when it comes to what people had to go through in order to get to this point in different cultures, just it makes me aghast. It really does.
Well, I mean,
we're not even talking about our topic tonight, are we? But go ahead.
No, we'll get there because I was about to steer us back. But this brings up one other point because this reminds me of the guy that was in Helena Handbasket's timeline talking about how there's differences between gender and sex, and then I'm like, no, there's not. So then he posts a meme that talks about the new definition of what a gender is, and what it actually is talking about is gender roles, by the way, not gender.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like, yeah, show me a parchment. Just one parchment. And then you started liking it, and I was like, hey, an anthropologist has just noticed this, so keep digging. It could be fun. And then he shut up. So.
Yeah, it's actually gender was a construct in psychology back in I think it started in the 60s.
Yeah.
If I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So
it's a modern theory.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a stupid theory. You want to start talking to me about gender roles? We can talk about those all day long, and we can talk about how you don't have to conform to your gender roles. But don't tell me that gender and sex are different things, because they're not. And anybody who says they are was probably high, because everybody seems to forget that the founding fathers of psychology spent 90% of their adult lives high as fuck.
Very true.
So I think we seriously need to start looking at some of these foundations and figure out where they came from and who was intoxicated at the time. Speaking of one last shot, the chick with off meds in her TL needs to seek help, because she shouldn't be off meds. Okay, I'm done
now. Well, it has been a very strange week when it comes to the news. I will say that there's a lot of weird stuff going down the pike.
Yeah, and then today, like, Biden's clutch slipped on air again. He's like in the middle of ranting about Donald Trump, and then he just sits there and blinks, and then blinks some more, and like 45 seconds goes by, and he's like, "Well, I should probably clear my thoughts before I say something that I shouldn't." I'm like, dude, that train left the station like 5 minutes ago. Your thoughts couldn't be any more clear if you tried, because your head's empty. So yeah, it's just been one thing after the other. But it's funny that you brought this up, because I was actually kind of thinking about proposing this as a topic, because I started responding to one of those GIF threads that was like, if you had followed your childhood dreams, what would your profession be? And I realized, I'm like, dude, I've done pretty much everything I said I wanted to do when I was a kid in one form or another, which is rare. I was like, wait a minute, I've actually done everything that I said I wanted to do as a kid. Even like my later teenage years, when I changed tracks and then kind of ran away from the ministry, I still wound up back ending into the ministry. So I mean, and you're like, we should talk about this, and I'm like, that's cool, I've done all mine. And I could kind of feel the eye roll when you laughed at me. Just saying. But yeah, so the title of the show is "We Want Do-Overs" because we have other ideas on how to wreck our lives. Because Aggie promoted it as we wrecked our childhood, and we're going to discuss it.
Well, I mean, I did not end up. The job that I ended up getting was nothing like what I imagined my job would be when I was a kid. I wanted to be different things. I mean, we all go through that. We go through different phases where we want to be different things, including dinosaurs. Yeah, I get it. I wanted to be Brontosaurus, and then, tragically, there was no such thing. So I guess check that off. But, just there were different vocations that growing up, girls veered towards, guys veered towards, but sometimes they converged. And I remember, everybody knows my dad worked for a time at NASA during its very early years.
Agent Man, secret agent man. Oh, sorry.
And so, we had memorabilia, or at least he did, in his closet. And every so often, he would bring down and he would tell us what there would be. He had different models and stuff like that. And patches. He had patches from several, of the missions. And so, and paperwork. And paperwork we did not understand, but he got to keep a lot of the paperwork, a lot of the, stuff. As a matter of fact, I own the slide rule that he used while he was working at NASA. So that's kind of a cool little thing and everything. But so because of that, I had dreamt about becoming an astronaut. But it wasn't that I wanted to go through the whole rigmarole of, I just wanted to leave the Earth. And at a young age,
Stop the world, Mom. I want to
get the fuck out of this planet.
Yeah, I can kind of hear it, in Spanish in your head right now. Stop the world, Mom. I want to get off.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because it wasn't the outfit, it wasn't the helmet, none of that was attractive to me. I thought it was cool, but I didn't, whatever. Going up in a rocket, same thing. Yeah, bunch of diddly heads, you got to press a bunch of buttons, blah, 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 blah. No, I just wanted to go up there, be in space. I wanted to be in space. I didn't have to have the spacewalk suit. I didn't even want a ship. I just want to go out there. So last August when I was at my parents', my dad and I, we were reminiscing because he still had a couple of things and he wanted to give them to us. And I said, Dad, do you remember me telling you that I wanted to be an astronaut? He said, yeah. I said, I lied. He was like, what do you mean you lied? I know you wanted to be an astronaut. That's all you talked about. I said, no, I wanted to just go up in space.
Yeah.
He's like, well, that's what an astronaut does. I said, Dad, I just wanted to leave the Earth. And he looked at me and said, I think everybody wants to do that now.
It's like, you were just ahead of the curve, hon. It's all good.
But the thought of being out, like Superman can go out in space and not have to breathe or anything, that was kind of very attractive to me. To be able to just float out there and, survey the cosmos in a way. And it was still, but astronaut was like the closest that I could get to being, so I could leave the Earth.
So what you're saying is you secretly wanted superpowers, but settled.
I didn't want superpowers either. I wanted to get the fuck out of here.
If you can leave the planet's atmosphere and not die, you have superpowers. Unless you're in a spaceship and a spacesuit. I'm just saying.
Yeah, still.
So I'm just saying.
But yeah, that was, for me, it was the whole leave everything behind and just go somewhere. I mean, I think that's what attracted me to Star Trek when I was very young, and why I was a real science fiction aficionado growing up, and why my sisters couldn't stand the thought that I wanted to watch science fiction movies.
They're like,
they just could not understand that.
You're supposed to be doing your hair and nails. What is this sci-fi shit?
Yeah, so that, being an astronaut was like the gateway.
Yeah.
The gateway to getting out of here. So even at that age, I think I was maybe 6 or 7.
So I can almost imagine. I can almost imagine you like building like the cardboard rocket ship like a lot of us have done. And
I did.
Having the name on the side, GTFOH.
I did build my own little rocket ship, and let me tell you, I did not have strong enough tape.
Yeah.
So I went to the gentleman that lived across the street from us, and, well, I guess across the alley street type of thing. And I asked him if he had strong tape because I was building a ship. And he asked me what kind of ship. And I said, I want to build a rocket. And he says, well, you're going to need duct tape. But I only have one roll. And I said, well, do you have any chores that you need done? And we can trade for the duct tape. I mean, I was like 6 or 7 when I did this, okay? And he said, yeah, if you could sweep out my workshop, I'll give you the duct tape. And so I did. I swept it all out. Now, you would think that there wouldn't be a lot. No, it was full of leaves and debris and all sorts of stuff. And I ended up, picking up all the metal and plastic stuff and putting it in empty coffee cans, and then sweeping out all of the leaves and dirt and everything, and made it into a pile. And I just made it really neat and pretty. And he gave me the roll of duct tape, and I took it home, and I proceeded to build. And I had a yardstick, I had a magic marker, the scissors, and the duct tape. And I managed to do it just using the straight. And I was winging it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I managed to make a pretty cool looking rocket ship and everything. And my dad comes outside, and I'm like, give my rocket ship and everything. He's like, where the hell did you get the duct tape? Because he knew he didn't have any. And I was like, and I told him, I said, I went to Mr. Toñi next door, and I swept out his garage, and he gave me the duct tape in exchange. And my dad was very proud of my work that day. He really was. My mom thought it was kindling, and she wanted to set fire to it, but my dad said no. She worked really hard on that and whatever. And then my sister saw it, and she's like, why didn't you make a car? And my eyes lit up. I still have plenty of duct tape. We can make it, and cardboard. We can make a car. So she wanted a car. So we made a car for her. So, and it was, I think the attraction was using the duct tape because it was really neat, and it was kind of flexible on the on the corners and stuff like that. So yeah, that was kind of cool. But yeah, that was one of my first career paths that I was hoping to concentrate on.
Well, yeah. So I actually did think of one that I kind of wanted to do later in my teenage years that never came to fruition. Movies like Top Gun and Iron Eagle made me want to be a fighter pilot. Then I realized I was claustrophobic, so that wasn't happening.
Ooh, yeah, that'll put
I really, really want to be a fighter pilot. And then my stepdad, when we lived on the Air Force Base, he actually pulled some strings to, believe it or not, get me some simulator time. They actually had them. It wasn't exactly like in the movie, but it wasn't too far off from Iron Eagle. And I spent like 20 minutes in there. And as long as I was like doing the scenarios, I was cool. But as soon as it went off, I was like, somebody's got to get me out of here. He's like, yeah, I don't think this is for you. Like, yeah, I don't think.
I would think claustrophobia would be like, oof. Oh, that would be bad.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't bother me, like, because I've flown, because I didn't have a choice, but I was in big airplanes. And I don't really know if it would bother me as much because, there's a giant window. But then I got to, when I started having anxiety, which weirdly enough started probably about 6-7 months before my ex left, it was almost like my nervous system knew what was going on before my brain caught up. Because I would just randomly start having panic attacks. And I was sitting in the car one time, and she's driving, and I'm in the passenger seat, and I'm just like, oh my god, this car's too fucking small. I'm rolling down the window, sticking my head out like a dog. She's like, what's the matter with you? I was like, I don't know, I'm having a panic attack. So yeah, then I was like, maybe that was a really good choice not to try to become a fighter pilot. So that wasn't really my first one, though. My first one, which was kind of a toss-up, and it was because I used to watch shows like Adam 12 and Rampart, I couldn't decide when I was probably 5 or 6 if I wanted to be in law enforcement or be like a paramedic or something. So you guys know the rest of the story with the law enforcement stuff. Managed to rescue that in one form or another after really bad shit. So did get to do that one. But yeah, so the one that I could think of that I always kind of wanted to do and never really did was get to be a fighter pilot. Then, and then it was, I almost went into the Army because I was going to be a helicopter pilot. Because the other thing that would have stopped me from being a fighter pilot is I have really bad eyesight, which you can't have that and fly planes. It's not as bad when you're flying helicopters, apparently. So at one point I was going to try to be an Apache pilot. and then wound up not doing that either.
I would imagine it takes some kind of fortitude to be a fighter pilot, and yeah, you'd have to have very good vision simply because the targets and looking at all the doodads, in the cockpit. I guess I don't know, but I don't think flying was ever something that I had even thought about doing, except as a passenger. And, I'm still aspiring to maybe one day be in first class to experience that. I doubt it'll ever happen, but
I was in first class for 20 minutes in 1988.
For 20 minutes?
Yeah, we were flying home to come. We were flying home from Oklahoma back when we still lived in 88. We were still in Seattle. So yeah, we were flying home to Seattle. So they when we went to check in, the person behind the counter realized it was just me and my brother flying by ourselves, and she's like, "Hey," and she's talking to my dad, and she's like, "We still have seats open in first class. Since it's just them, I can bump them up if you want, and not charge you anything for it." So my dad's like, "Okay, cool, we'll do that." And then my brother and I are like just chilling in first class, and like, "Oh my god, these seats are so much bigger." And then they're like, "What would you like to eat?" And it's like offering like first, like literally like fucking 5-star food and shit. And then right after we placed our orders, the stewardess came and said, "We are so sorry, these seats sold at the last minute, so we're gonna have to move you back to the seat you were assigned to." I was like, "Can I still have my steak?" She was like, "No, sorry, you suck."
Oh no!
Man. So yeah, I
see
was.
That. And here's an ugly truth. They actually have more first class dinners than there are seats, because they have to compensate for those people who are vegetarian or whatever reason. But I'm sure they had more, and they could have at least given you that.
Well, they weren't going to bring that food back there and then have the rest of the riffraff looking at us. I'm kind of glad they didn't now, because if they tried to do that today, I probably would have gotten stabbed.
That motherfucker's eating steak.
Everybody else eating peanuts and drinking Dr. Pepper, and because I got bumped from first class, they're bringing me steak. They'd be like, "Get that motherfucker!"
Oh my goodness, that's what I think. The last time I was on a flight where it was that we're going to have a food served or whatever, I was flying from Dallas to Washington D.C. or nearby Reagan, and the stewardess is coming by and she's taking my order and everything, and I said, "Well, what are the options?" And she says, "Well, we did have chicken and we did have beef. We're now down to the vegetarian plates." And I'm like, okay.
So listen, Linda. When I ask for the options, only give me the ones I still have.
I'm like, "Well, what's the vegetarian option?" And she's like, "It's a veggie lasagna." And I was like, "Is it done with tomato sauce?" And she says, "Yes." I said, "Okay, that's fine then, no problem." Well, the lady next to me did not want that, and she was demanding beef, and she was getting really upset about the whole situation. And I'm like, this is just a luck of the draw. There's only so many dishes that they could put in the cargo hold, for serving dinner. And finally, the guy, catty corner to us, gave up his beef and got the vegetarian tray just to shut her up. And that's, to me, it's egregious that she went demanding, this kind of stuff and everything. But I remember when service was a lot better when you were flying, and you had actual China over in economy class.
So just to back up for a second, because I want to make sure I understand you. So you're saying the guy catty cornered to you slipped the woman his beef?
Pretty much, yeah.
Giggity goo. Stick around.
But I mean, it's insane flying. But
Well, I mean,
everybody says you should fly. Once in a while, treat yourself to a good, first class flight from here to someplace exotic. I'm like, why?
Well, so the weird thing about air travel, right, though, is it kind of evolved from train travel. And back in the day with trains, it was one of those things where you put on your Sunday best, and they had the good china, and they did this and they did that. So for the longest time, that's what it was like being on an airplane. And then in the 70s/80s, it all started changing. And now it's, let's herd them all in like cattle. I mean, it's like you see all these stories now about fights breaking out on airplanes all the time, and I'm like, well, if you hadn't taken the half an inch of space they had between each other, half an inch, and just to cram in more chairs, then they probably wouldn't be trying to kill each other. Just saying.
Probably. There's a lot of truth to that. I mean, and it's funny because I still dress when I travel. I mean, like, I dress up like Sunday best when I travel.
I mean, I do if I'm doing something like CPAC or something, because half the time I'm hopping off the plane and running straight in to start doing shit. So, like, if I'm doing something like that, then I'll have like a suit on or slacks or something. But if I'm just goofing, then you know me, I'm team no pants.
Yeah. I will dress up every time that I fly, and then it's funny because no less than 2 people every single time that I've flown anywhere have asked me if I was if this was a working, if I was going for business, and I'm like, no. It's like, well, you're so nicely dressed. And I was like, I grew up in a time when you actually went through the trouble of dressing up when you flew. I mean, my mom would rather get caught naked, dead, than be casually wearing clothing, wearing casual clothing on a flight.
Well, I mean,
to this day, she's 78 and she still dresses to the nines when she's flying.
Well, I mean, it's just a throwback to how life used to be, because used to, if you went out in public at all, people expected you to dress up. Because it was just a way for you to basically show your station. Because if you're running around in holdy clothes and no shoes or dirty shoes, then everybody else, I mean, hell, you see it everywhere in old movies and everything. Everybody was in suits, ties, and hats, like, all the fucking time, because that's pretty much what you were when you were working back then. And now we've just, I mean, in a lot of ways, we've gotten lazy and stupid, and it shows. I kind of, in some ways, as much as I hate pants, I kind of miss the days when we dressed professionally all the time, because it was like we had decorum back then to a point.
Yeah.
And we just don't anymore. And unfortunately, while social media has been a great thing in a lot of ways, because it's how I get paid now, it still sucks for society. And it's like I was talking the other day, I was like, I'm firmly starting to believe that language first evolves and then it devolves. And I'm really starting to think that hieroglyphics in Egypt came about towards the end, because I'm pretty sure that was version 1.0 of emoji. Just saying.
Oh, no, it totally was. As a matter of fact, there was a meme about how we have become Egypt. We do emojis and we're always liking cats, pictures of cats. And I'm like, oh my God, we are Egypt. This is ancient Egypt. We're living times. Okay.
Yeah, it's ancient Egypt in the 21st century.
I'll venture to say that when you dress nicely, when you're in a high stress area like an airport, flying or whatever, and you're dressed nicely, you're less prone to becoming hostile to anybody. And it's something that I have noticed. It's really weird, but it's true. The nicer you dress, the less likely you are to be in a hostile situation. And it's weird. I've seen it. The more relaxed you're dressed, the more likely you are that you will react to any hostile situation or any high stress situation.
There's a reason they call a tank top a wife beater now. Just saying.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway.
Just saying. Yeah. All right. So what was your next career path not taken?
Believe it or not, I came close to actually taking this one, but I deviated in college. For a long time after we came over here, I I was watching, I don't know, I think it was Marlon Perkins, Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom, whatever, and everything. But the animals were fine. They were nice and everything. I didn't want to become a zoologist, but what interested me were every so often you would have these really nice rock formations in the background. And coming from a town that was surrounded by mountains back home, it always interested me to see all of these large basalt configurations in the mountainsides, right? And I always wondered where they came from. Of course, there is the myth, the local myth and legends about how those rocks came to that particular mountain or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. They're Taino myths and legends, but I really want to know how they got there, that kind of thing. And so I wanted to become a geologist. I wanted to learn about rocks and how they formed and the different types and the prettiness and the ugliness and how long they, how water affects a rock and how, the whole, everything. I wanted to know about everything. And so I would study on my own throughout my junior high and high school years. And when I went to college, that was my predetermined major. So I was a geology major for about 2 years. And I liked it and everything. And then, something that one of the professors said actually struck me. And it made me kind of pause. And he said, if I can remember the words correctly, he had a really bad accent. He said that basically becoming a geologist is forfeiture of your humanity. You were basically, what he was saying was you become a robot when you become a geologist because it's all science. So there is no human interaction with the soil. There's no human interaction with the rock. It just is and all that stuff. Whereas, in chemistry, you do have a certain form of human interaction in chemistry and biology, obviously, in all of those. But when it came to geology, he said the human beings were removed from that, is what he was trying to say. And that made me pause. I was like, I don't think this is for me then. And it took me like about 6 months, and I really wrestled with it because I really enjoy geology. I really, to this day, I'm a rock hound. All sorts of geology stuff, we'll go someplace and go digging for whatever. But that kind of made me pause because I didn't like that part of it. I thought that was too dry and it was too cold and brittle. And in a way, that's how rocks are once they're formed. They're dry, cold, and brittle. And I was like, yeah, I don't think this is for me. I like it, but I don't think this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I didn't want to become that rock. And so I just happened to be taking an elective, and it was Anthropology 101.
And then she was walking across campus, and she said, "Ooh, check out that big skull on Mike." Just kidding.
No, that was an Anthropology 215, but that's a different story. Anyway. But after, finals, where the TA, Lauren, wanted to talk to me afterwards. And she said that I had a really good aptitude for this stuff because, she was the one grading my papers. She was the one grading my tests and everything. And she asked me if I wanted to be her helper, for her stuff. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll volunteer, no problem. But I didn't think that I was going to be becoming, I didn't think I was going to graduate in that field until I got immersed in what she was doing. And it just grabbed me because it was about humanity. It was more about all the cultures and how they intermingled with each other and what we learned and how they did the same thing separate, that kind of stuff. So that then I switched, and of course my geology professor was like, "I don't understand. Why do you want to learn about people?" I was like, "Okay, that's it. That's the last nail I needed on that coffin." I was like, "Yeah, I'm done here." But I wanted to be a geologist for a very long time. I mean, I in a way, I guess I still am. I'm going whenever I walk the property and I find a rock and I'll pick it up and I can tell you what it is. I can tell you, the effects from the water. I can tell you all sorts of stuff about the stuff.
One of your favorite hobbies is painting rocks. You're still kind of a geologist.
I did two tonight for gifts. And yeah, I actually finished a couple that I'm mailing out. Hopefully, I'll mail them out tomorrow.
You can take the girl out of geology class, but you can't take the geology class out of the girl.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that one I actually came very close to actually completing and doing for the rest of my life, but I couldn't leave my humanity behind. And I don't say that's how geology is.
No, it is.
I actually know a couple of geologists on Twitter. And they're really great people, obviously. But it's just the way this particular professor kind of turned me away from it.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but it's true.
When he was like, I don't understand, why don't you want to study people? I'd have been like, because I don't want to wind up being cold, brittle, and broken like you.
I mean, yeah, the words were there. I'm not going to lie. I was being more diplomatic, though.
Oh, I know. You're like the diplomatic one. You're like the diplomatic one everywhere. You're like the peacekeeper.
Oh yeah, let me tell you, I was at the grocery store and the gentleman behind me on the checkout lane knew the lady who was doing, the cashier, and they were like sniping back and forth at each other, good humoredly and everything.
Yeah.
And the cashier turns to me and is like, "Can you believe this guy?" And I looked at her without skipping a beat. "I'm sorry, I'm Switzerland here." They busted out laughing. You are not pulling me into your argument. No, sorry. But that's you got to be a good diplomat. But as you grow older, that kind of goes away too. So
yeah, my favorite one is "My name is Bennett and I ain't in it."
That's great. But yeah, so I guess I'm an amateur rock hound, amateur geologist, and I still do my rock thing, and now I paint rocks, But
she walks out with her rocks out.
That was the closest. Huh?
She walks out with her rocks out, folks.
So anyway.
I got dad jokes for days. Don't judge me.
This is a no judgment zone. This is a team no pants zone. So there you go. So what was your second?
Second for me, actually kind of taking these in reverse order. Other than the law enforcement one, which was kind of the first one, and you guys know the story there. Second for me was becoming a minister. I decided my parents was always one of those things where they sent me to church, but they never went to church. And then I was like always kind of weirded out by that. I was like, okay, so I'm going to church all the time. Y'all ain't going to church. But then, so it kind of grabbed my attention when I would say it was probably honestly 16 years old. It was when we moved back to Oklahoma. By then I was kind of, full on watching like the TBN network, going to church all the time. In the church choir, all those things, and I just started kind of feeling like I was being pulled into the ministry. So I was working towards that all the way through high school, and then somehow, because you know me, I'm always doing like a million different things, somehow I kind of missed the whole having to do public speaking as a preacher thing. I don't know why that never really connected in my brain, and I always thought, well, maybe it was just one of those things where maybe, God would take care of it. And then when I got to college, I started having to do public speaking. And keep in mind, I was in political classes and did debate thing and everything else, so it's not like I had never done public speaking before. But it was kind of like when I was talking about earlier, there was just this random time several years ago where I was just like having full-on panic attacks. Same thing was happening. Like, I could not get myself to go to that class to the point where I dropped it. And for a time, I even left college. And when I left college, my mom made me move out because she's like, you're an adult now, and if you're not going to school, you can't live here. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll figure it out because I'm not doing that. So then after I started, couch surfing for probably 3 or 4 months. Then I went back to school and changed my major and got my 2-year degree for criminal justice, which was the only requirement back then. And then you guys know the rest of the story. And then fast forward to 1995-ish. At this point, it was before I got into the private security side of things, and I was, learning how to do things over again, all that fun stuff, and working fast food. Well, my first wife and I started going to church with her mom, and it was a really small church in Del City. So, of course, her mom knows about me kind of running from the ministry. So, unbeknownst to me, her mom is talking to the pastor every chance she gets, who happens to be an elderly woman who was struggling to keep the church running. So she finally comes to me and says, she's like, I can help you get ordained if you're willing to help me. Like, but I don't want to. And then my wife and my mother-in-law were like, you should do it, you should do it, you should do it. So I did it. And then for like 2 years, I was the music minister. I was helping when they started, because at that point, I'm still, 23, 24-ish, doing the math. Probably, 20, almost 20, 22, almost 23. So still a kid, but past the worst part of everything that happened before. So I'm helping with the music ministry, and then they start wanting help to try to build a youth organization. So I started helping there, and then one day I come in and start setting things up for Sunday service. And the preacher comes in and says, I've lost my voice, you've got to preach. I'm like, your service is in like 20 minutes. You want me to do a sermon prep a sermon in 20 minutes? And she said yes, and I said okay. And then so I went into her office and just started pouring over things real quick and put something together. And I'm like, God, this is what you need me to do. Please don't make me sound like a moron. And then, and again, 20 minutes worth of prep. No idea what I was going to talk about. And by the end, she was like, okay, you're doing this like every other Sunday now. And I'm like, wait, what? She's like, I kind of, and she said, I've been praying about this for a few days. And I kind of felt like God was saying that I just needed to put you on the spot and see if you could do it. And now we both know you can do it. So now you're co-pastor. I'm like, okay. So the problem was she, just about 2 years later, because like I said, she was already in her 70s. She couldn't really run the church anymore. Her family didn't want to know what they wanted to do with the building, so eventually the church shut down. So that's when I started doing private security work because I got tired of working fast food. And then that led to me starting the company that I ran from basically 1997-ish until 2009.
Wow.
But yeah, so that was one of those things where felt like I was being pulled in that direction, and thanks to that, I do have my ordination, and I've, done weddings, done funerals, all the above, but I've never actually just founded a church or ran a church. But that's because while I was doing all the security stuff, I didn't really have time to do it because I was working all the time, and then that was when I started getting politically involved, and I'm like, yeah, probably not a good idea to try to be a preacher and political at the same time, so we're just going to let that go. But yeah, so that was number 2 on my hit parade of the total of 4, 2 of which I've done, 1 I didn't do, and still kind of regretting at least not trying that one, because it's the only thing I've ever really said that I wanted to do that I didn't at least try. Meh. Well, that and being Godzilla when I was 5, but I don't count that one.
Godzilla, Brontosaurus. I mean, they really didn't exist either. Oh man, I don't know. I briefly thought about being a dancer. I mean, the thought of being a ballerina, so graceful, so pretty.
You had me for a second because I was about to ask what kind of dancer, but then you went ballerina.
Ballerina.
My imagination was peaked, and then you killed it.
No, sorry. Yeah. No, I mean, every little girl wanted to be a ballerina growing up. I mean, it was just, and
some little boys.
I got to junior high and actually got to meet some girls that took ballet classes for like 10, 12 years. And here I am going, oh my God, so you know how to stand on your toes. And they would look at me like, yeah, so. They were very snobbish. But I didn't know anything about being a ballet dancer. I didn't know anything about being a ballerina or anything. So, but it was just I just wanted to be graceful. I just wanted to be light on my feet. For lack of a better term.
So, from when I was a kid, using terms like light on your feet or light in your light in your loafers around other guys meant something completely different. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I actually my friend, the one that I turned gay, he's the one that told me that's what it meant.
I always forget about that story. And then you're like, oh yeah, the guy turned gay, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about him.
Oh my gosh, it was funny. He and his husband just celebrated, I think, their third wedding anniversary.
And you're like, you're welcome. Thanks to me, you realized you didn't like girls.
Oh my goodness, too funny. But anyway, yeah, that was one of the things that I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be a ballerina, but I wanted to be, the fancy tutu that that looks like that's out to here, and everything. The one that you see on a cake topper, that kind of dress and everything. And I just thought that would have been really, really cool to do. I just was not. My parents couldn't afford, the ballet lessons for one, but for another, I wasn't coordinated enough. I didn't think I was, and my doctor actually told me that my tendons and everything were just too short, and I would never have been good at it anyway. And so I decided to learn different type of dancing to compensate for that. So I learned ballroom dancing, different types of ballroom dancing, and that has been fun. But yeah, every little girl dreams about doing something like that. And but that dream was very short lived.
Well, yeah, when your doctor's like, yeah, you can't do that anyway, I'd be like, fuck you, doc. Watch me. That's my biggest problem, because that's anything that I've ever really told anybody I wanted to do, because I mean, most people know my story, but they may not know all of it. Hell, I was born a month premature. I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, so I have always had issues like muscle control issues, body pain issues, and I went through years of therapy to be able to even moderately function, and then I pushed even harder to be able to do things like pass physicals, because everybody told me I couldn't do it, and I was like, fuck you, watch me. But it's kind of like everything else. Like my last one, which kind of became what I'm doing now, was, to give everybody a hint, it stemmed from this. As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. So I grew up watching WKRP and was like, oh my God, being a DJ would be awesome, because TV makes everything look awesome. So I started figuring out how to do that. But because I'd already made all these other life choices, that was something that kind of, even though it was something I always wanted to do, I didn't really think about it until much, much later. So then I had a friend who was running an internet radio station, which back then, I mean, this is during dial-up days, so this is brand new. And he was like, hey, I need somebody to cover my weekend shifts. You want to come do it? I'm like, so I'm like throwing wax down on internet radio dial-up, like way back in the day. And it was awesome. And I was like, oh my God, being Johnny Fever is awesome. I mean, granted, I got paid in bumper stickers and stale pizza and t-shirts, but, you know, I was still getting to do something that I wanted to do. And then fast forward to 2009, thanks to Barack Obama, the economy was already on the way down because everybody was seeing the writing on the wall. All my clients were starting to have issues paying. Luckily, I had a factoring company for a long time, so I was able to keep things running for almost a year. Before I finally just gave up because it got to a point where I could pay everybody but myself, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to have to go find something else to do. So I stopped. I shut the company down for a little bit. I actually tried to go to work for somebody else and stay in security, and then figured out that it's really hard to be, you know, subordinate to someone again after you've been your boss for like 15, your own boss for almost 15 years. So I changed career paths. So during that career path change, I started becoming actively involved in politics. And then that same guy that let me play on his dial-up radio station way back in the day, when I pitched him the idea of starting an internet talk radio station, he laughed me out of his office for about 6 months. And then I figured out how to start doing it anyway, because he's like, nobody's going to listen. That's a stupid idea. And I'm like, fuck you, watch me. 6 months later, he's blowing up my phone because he's been listening, unbeknownst to me, for like weeks and really liked what we were doing. So he's like blowing up my phone. He's like, hey, I bought the rights to use a name, and I want you to build the talk site. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And that was K98 Talk, and we did that for almost 3 years. And then we had a falling out because he wasn't wanting to keep up with all the licensing and stuff, and I didn't have access to be able to fix it. I'm like, look, dude, I have people getting like approval through Congress to come to political events, and you're letting the licensing lapse. I can't do that. So and then K98 Talk became KLRN Radio, and since then I don't really do the music side anymore, but I've been doing talk radio in one form or another, and sometimes even on regular radio for 16 years. And again, it was just, you know, something that I'd always kind of wanted to do, had no real idea of how to do it, short of, you know, going to one of the broadcasting schools that everybody always made fun of, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And now I kind of wish I had.
Because I don't know, I think you're doing good.
Oh no, I mean, and the funny thing is, like, I know people that are in the radio industry that have listened to some of my stuff and swear up and down that they know who I am because I've never hidden from anybody that Rick Robinson is not my real name, because there's no point. You know, everybody knows that this is my creative side's name, is basically how I used to put it to everybody, and it's because where I used to work, starting with Convergys and then eventually Southwest Airlines and then eventually University of Oklahoma, I was point blank told, if we find out you're being actively political and posting things that we don't agree with and it gets back to us, you're going to be fired. I was like, well, I have a way to fix that, so that's fine. So I never did it under my real name. And then OU found out I was doing it, but then when they figured out that I was actually getting to sit in on local radio stations, they were like, we'll be okay. Like, just don't tell them where you work. And then one of the first mornings I was ever on KOKC filling in, everybody in my office, down except for like 3 people, took a tardy and finished listening to the show in the car. And then I got called into my boss's office. He's like, yeah, you can't put out emails anymore about when you're going to be on the show. It's like, why not? He's like, because everybody came in late. It's like, how is that my fault? They're adults. I didn't. They could have listened on their phones. It's not my fault they stayed in the car. I mean, there were literally like people, like other managers were sending pictures to me while I was on the air on my phone of people camped out in the parking lot with their doors open, listening to the show. And I'm like, how is this my fault? And they're like, yeah, don't do that again. I'm like, fine, whatever. It's like, whatever, dude, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, pretty much everything that I've ever decided I wanted to do, I found a way to do it, even if it was creative in one point or another, but I've still found a way to do it. I mean, hell, now I get paid to do this and get paid to write. Granted, this still pays pennies, the writing pays more, but we're working on that. So, pennies is still better than nothing, especially if you leave them alone in the dark long enough, because they start breeding like rabbits.
Ah, is that the secret?
That's,
okay.
well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. There were, there's some things that I wanted to be when I was little that I wanted to do when I grew up. And believe it or not, a telephone repair person a repairman, but not for the telephones. I wanted to get up on the telephone poles.
This is back to you just wanting to leave the planet again.
Yeah, I guess. But this was actually before I had my unfortunate patch with electricity. So after that, I didn't want to be that anymore. So there's that. You know, and of course, you know, the whole, I had thought about being a fireman because, you know, this is, you're out there saving somebody's life. You're doing something that is heroic, you know, and for a time I actually trained to be a fireman. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long because I ended up getting a job somewhere else and I had to move like within days. So I was approached by a friend who happened to work at the volunteer fire department in my hometown, and he said they were looking for certain types of people. And I looked at him and I said, okay, define type. And I knew race had nothing to do with it because he himself was Hispanic, so I didn't think it was a racial thing. But I thought it might be a female quota thing. No, it was a short people thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, no hobbits allowed.
They needed people who were short in order to be able to crawl into small spaces, you know, and everything. And you know, when they said that, I was like, I'm so glad that this is not a quota-driven thing. And he was like, no, we just need short people, and nobody's really interested. And those who are interested are already like football players, and you know, they're all huge people. He was like, we need tiny people.
So wait, so why couldn't? So they were looking for short, tiny people. Why couldn't you do this again?
Oh, I had applied for a job in Dallas. I hadn't heard anything. So when I enrolled to train, I was with the understanding that they didn't accept me for the job. You know, they passed on me. And then like 3 days after I started training, I get called saying that I had the job. So, and the job started in 2 days' time. So I had to like drop everything and move. But I thought that was interesting that I was the shortest person in the fire department for a time. But you know, it was really cool. I learned to, you know, rappel from buildings. I learned the different ways to how you're not supposed to go into a building, how you're not supposed to open doors. You know, the things not to do were the first things that they teach you.
So remind me again how you weren't secretly trying to figure out how to have superpowers again.
It wasn't about superpowers. It was about a big need to like help.
So just stay with me here, because first you're wanting to leave the planet Superman style, and now you're swinging around buildings Spider-Man style. Remind me again how this isn't about superpowers.
I can't tell you, but you know, it's just, you know, I figured, you know, this was a way to help people, and it was, I felt needed, and I think that was the big attraction for me, was that they needed somebody like me, you know, and it kind of made me feel like I can help, I can fill a niche, and I can, you know, make this set of people, this group of people work better together, you know, that kind of thing. It was kind of cool. And then, you know, unfortunately I moved to, excuse me, Dallas, and that 3 months away, because I was not going to be a firefighter in Dallas. It was not happening.
Oh, come on. You could have done it. I'm just saying.
No. I actually looked into it, and the requirements were rather stressful. But it would interfere with my work anyway. And it wasn't, I don't know if I don't think Dallas is a volunteer fire department. But I know that where I was planning on moving to after moving out of Dallas, because I could not afford to live in Dallas, and my work was outside of Dallas. That particular community had a volunteer fire department, so I looked into it, but it would interfere too much with my work, so I had to give that up, especially because it was a volunteer position. So
Yeah, I know lots of people that always wanted to do the firefighter thing and then wound up figuring out how to do volunteer firefighting because it was kind of a way for them to do what they wanted to do. I mean, hell, one of my friends in Louisiana who I talk to all the time actually used to be a volunteer firefighter down there, and I was kind of impressed when she told me that. I was like, you used to be a volunteer firefighter? She's like, yeah, I have pictures. Like, oh, that's awesome.
well, you know, the local community here has I think almost every community here, even those that are, you know, associated with the town that I live in, have their own volunteer fire department. And a couple of them came by because we needed to know where, if something happened to where there was a fire here, they needed to know if their rig could come out here, or, you know, what we had to develop a plan. We're so remote. So they came out here. We were talking about that. And, you know, I asked, are y'all ever looking for like volunteer people for your fire department? And he said that, yeah, they usually are. And so, you know, he wanted to know what I wanted to do. And I was like, dude, I'm 57. Well, at the time I was 55. You know, I'm 55. I don't know what you want from me. He's like, well, maybe you could just take care of the trucks. I was like, okay. So I was thinking about picking that up this spring, just going in there and learning about the truck upkeep and, you know, spit shining them, that kind of thing. It's something to do.
I mean, you know, it could be fun. Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm at an age where I'm pretty useless for firefighting, so.
Oh, come on, don't start none of that.
Oh, no. I'm perfectly fine being too old to be a firefighter. Oh, man. I can just imagine me, and I don't think I could even carry the everything a firefighter wears, you know.
Well, the weirdest thing for me for like the whole firefighting thing is the fact that they expect you to be able to be in like your turnout suit in less than like 90 seconds. Like, yeah, that ain't ever happening. I mean, at least, you know, being a cop, even if you have to, or even, you know, private, or even doing private security work, if you have to change, there's normally a place where you can change, and there's not really like this, oh my god, you have to be ready to leave in like 2 minutes kind of thing, unless something goes completely sideways. So that was another reason that I was like, you know what, I don't really dig that turnout gear shit, and there ain't no way I'm going to be into that in 90 seconds or less. So, no.
Yeah, I don't think I can make that.
I mean,
nope.
But it was fun to watch because, I mean, they have that stuff down to a science. And, I mean, granted, you know, I mean, we're talking, for me, it would have been almost 30 years ago for me to do that kind of stuff. So they didn't even have as much gear as they do now. But it was still like, you know, you had basically the stuff right in front of your station, and basically you had it set up where you jump in the boots and pull on the suit at the same time. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I could have ever done that. I mean, it's awesome when you watch them do it, and you're like, how the hell did they do that? It's like a magic trick that you just don't quite understand.
Oh, man. So many things. So little time.
I know, right? So speaking of the so many things, so little time category, who's going to tell Egypt that building a wall is racist?
You know what I find funny is that, have you seen the wall that Spain has over at the Strait of Gibraltar?
I have not. No, I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
It is very tall. And if anybody coming from the Morocco side tries to scale it, you know what they do over in the Spanish side?
What?
They literally kick you back down.
That's funny.
There are people at the wall up there, and their job is to literally kick anybody that can manage to climb up the wall. It is a very tall wall.
I want that job.
I think it's almost, I want to say it's over 25 feet.
I kind of want that job. Just saying.
But the thing is, these people are like risking their lives because when you get kicked, you fall into the fucking ocean. Okay.
Yeah, well,
and there are rocks in the way.
So speaking of wanting a do-over and finding different ways to wreck our lives, I kind of want to go do that job now.
It's just
I want to be a wall kicker.
The thing is, we're not the only ones that are screaming to put up a wall. We're the ones that are being prevented from putting up a wall by our own government.
So
every other government that has a wall,
yeah,
does it because they're trying to keep the riffraff out.
Exactly,
and they get to define what the riffraff is.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean that everybody that is a riffraff or anything. It's just what the government defines as riffraff. They get to keep that out. And look at what Hungary is going through now. They're in the process. They might lose their European Union membership because of it. They put up a wall. They decided to close their own borders. They said, we're not going to take any of this shit.
What I think is absolutely hilarious over Egypt building a wall is if late night talk shows were anything like what they used to be, everybody tonight would be talking about how Trump was right because Biden's Mexico is paying for a wall.
It defies explanation. You go to any other country that enforces, their borders, because you can't really say that about most of Europe anymore. But these people the governments take it seriously.
So what happened with Europe, though, was kind of like what we do here. So they came up with a whole European Union concept. So basically each individual country within the EU kind of was still its own separate state, but had softer borders. So that's why you're able to travel between, because that's pretty much what we do here. But they were still allowed to enforce their outer borders. But that's why the country...
that's gone away.
Well, yeah, that's gone away, which is why...
With the exception of Switzerland, that has gone away. Switzerland never joined the EU in that manner because they knew better. But, I still had, whenever I went to Switzerland, I had to present my passport.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, they had border protection. They had, there were border checkpoints and everything. You couldn't just willy-nilly go anywhere. And of course, it's surrounded by all these fucking Alps. It's hard to get in and out. But even so, they still enforced their borders. And I remember one time we were coming back from Italy. We took the wrong highway, and on the road there were letters. One was one was O, and one was CH. And we were on CH. And CH was to Switzerland. O was to Austria. And we were trying to figure it out. And it wasn't until my brain clicked, oh, this is in their languages. Oh, no, get on the O. Because we didn't have our passports. And that was, and that would have been really, it would have been a slog to get there and then have to turn around and come back and go through the other. So it was quite an adventure. But, the whole issue with the border situation, a lot of people don't understand is that the EU said that they would enforce immigration. They would slow it to a manageable flow for each country, but the EU never delivered on that. So basically, everything became an open border situation. The EU was supposed to regulate the flow of immigration, but they never did anything about it. And so you have this influx that just completely, I think, it has overtaken almost every country. And there are very few countries the countries that are fighting back are the former Iron Curtain countries.
Because they understand what's going on, though.
They know. They see it. They know. And so
they're like, no, we've been through this before. We're not doing this again. I mean, just to put things in perspective, cost of living is so high here right now. I think I just saw a family of 5 going towards Mexico.
Would not be surprised. Would not be surprised. Actually, my dad was asking me, he has to go to Mexico. He has his dental stuff done over there. And he was asking me if I wanted anything. And I said, I want a pair of boots. He's like, well, you have to come down here and get measured for those. There's a gentleman that he knows that he makes boots. And I was like, okay. And I was planning on doing that this spring. And my dad said, yeah, you may want to hold off on that. and I asked him what happened, and he said, "Yeah, the situation's bad over there. Even he's not comfortable going to get his teeth worked on."
So just gonna throw this out there again. Secret agent man, secret agent man.
Yeah, it's like my dad knows a lot of people.
I mean, I'm not throwing him under the bus because I don't want to die, but I'm just saying.
No. Anyway, well, I guess we're almost at the top of the hour, so I guess we should wrap up.
Yeah, we probably should. Because you have a date with Perry Mason or Angela
I do have a date
Lansbury
with I have a date with Jessica. I want to see how she eliminates the competition.
Oh, I was reading somewhere that she actually leaned into that whole thing once, and now I can't find it again. I was going to show it to you, and then I lost it, and I was mad.
No, it's it was a running joke on the show. Later, as the years progressed, every so often she would go to an interview with one of the police officers on a case, and says, "Oh yeah, I know you. You're like a murder magnet." You have a reputation. Everywhere you go, bodies just show up. And it was more than once. And she looks offended.
Well, that's
oh, God love her.
That's because she almost figured out her happy little accidents theory.
Yes. Anyway, so Rick, where can we find you?
Might be shorter for me to say where you can't find me, but sure. Tomorrow night we are doing Juxtapositions. Ordy and I are taking a trip back to Atlantis tomorrow night at 11 p.m. Eastern. I found some new stuff, kind of fell down an Atlantis rabbit hole, and then lost the notes for a while, so I found them again, so we're going back there. That's 11 p.m. tomorrow night. Then Sunday night I'll be live at 10 p.m. Eastern doing the America Off the Rails show. Then Monday through Friday next week, yes, even Monday, President's Day, there will be a live Rick Robinson show, 3 to 5 Eastern, and then producing for you guys on Tuesday, producing for the whole freaking crew on Wednesday, including the Whatever Show, the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show, the Ladies of the Red Wine, and finishing the night with Ordy and me doing the Rick and Ordy Show, and then Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, Jen and Rick, and then back around here with you. When I'm not doing all that stuff, you can find me as the executive producer of the Loftus Party podcast, a contributor to the Loftus Party website, the MisfitsPolitics.com website, and the Twitchy.com website, and on pretty much every single social media platform known to man worth a damn at RowdyRick73. Hey, I got through that and can still breathe. I guess I'm getting better. All right, where can folks find you?
Well, you can find me at Aggie Rican and at Aggie the Barkeep. Those are over on X. You can find me Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. doing the Cocktail Lounge with the ever suave Brad Slager. Friday nights, 8:30 p.m. doing He Said, She Said as of late with our fun producer, you. Once a month, the guys get together for Toxic Masculinity, last Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I join in the fun, and that's G, Rick, Orty and Andrew and myself, I bring the cocktail of the hour. And once a month, Jeff and I have a new podcast called Spirited Books. We were supposed to do it this past Monday. It's the second Monday of every month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, but we had to push it to this coming Monday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So stay tuned for that. That should be fun. So, and that's about it.
Nice. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, anyway. Oh.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we hope you have a great evening, guys.
What's left of it anyway? Happy Friday night. If you're not drunk yet, why not? Just asking.